previous hearing. So Councillor Hutchinson was in the chair on the last occasion. You're still in the chair, Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. And we have the same panel on the left, predecessor on the right party. Are we have a new clerk? As our other clerk is on leave at the moment. Would you like to introduce yourself? Okay. Could I remind you all that when you speak, you press the button to speak, and when you've stopped speaking, you press the button to stop. That's the button on your right-hand side. Okay? Could we go through introductions, please, first?
Peter Nitch, Chairman of Ryan Mill Sports Club.
Ivan.
Sorry?
Ivan Todd, Finance Director, Osbit Limited.
Amanda Wallace of Osbit Limited.
Amanda
Wallace.
Wallace.
Oh.
Martin Baird, concerned resident and neighbour.
Recalling from last time.
Yep.
Okay. You'll all, I presume, know the well, not all of you will know the procedure. First of all, can I have your mobile phones turned off or turned on to silent? That's great, thanks. First, the applicant will... no, sorry, I tell a lie. First, the officer will present the application. Then the applicant will present his case for the well, not the extension, the premises licence. We will ask questions of the applicant. Then objectors can ask questions of the applicant. And then we turn around and the objectors have the chance to put their case forward. We can ask questions of them, and then the applicant can ask questions of them. Bear in mind, it's questions, it's not dispute. It's just a question and answer. It's not an argument session. Just to remind you all that we're being televised on YouTube, so don't swear, don't pick your nose. First of all, apologies for absence, which I think there are none from the floor. Any from?
Steve Bedford, who was the director responsible for the health and safety in the property at Osbit Limited, is out of the country. Therefore, Ivan Todd is representing him.
So you are representing?
Bedford.
Right, Osbit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're representing?
Osbit.
As well. Sorry, your name was?
Ivan Todd.
I've got you. Okay. Right, Heather, would you present the application, please?
The Licensing Subcommittee hearing today is with regards to an application for a club premises certificate in respect of Riding Mill Cricket Club, trading as Riding Mill Sports Club, Riding Mill. The applicant has applied for the supply of alcohol on the premises and regulated entertainment indoors. 4 representations have been received from interested parties on the ground of public nuisance, protection of children from harm, prevention of crime and disorder, and public safety. In determining the application and having considered the report, all relevant representations and verbal submissions from those persons entitled to speak at the hearing, the subcommittee is required to make its determination in respect of the application at the conclusion of the hearing. In this case, the subcommittee may grant the certificate subject to conditions that are consistent with the club operating schedule accompanying the application, which can be modified to an extent that members consider to be appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, or they may exclude from the scope of the certificate any of the qualifying club activities to which the application relates, or reject the application if it's not possible to promote one or more of the licensing objectives. Members are reminded that they can only attach conditions in respect of those matters that are subject to the application and in respect of which a relevant representation has been made, and that they are appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Members are also reminded that in determining the application, each objective is of equal importance. There are no other statutory licensing objectives, and therefore the promotion of the 4 objectives is always paramount consideration. and all applications for a club's premises certificate must be considered on whether the club can demonstrate that the certificate will not create any issues in relation to the licensing objectives. As a reminder, the prevention of crime and disorder relates to any crime, disorder or antisocial behaviour at the premises or related to the management of the premises. Public safety relates to the safety of the public on the premises, for example, fire safety, electrical circuitry, lighting, building safety or capacity and first aid. The prevention of public nuisance relates to issues such as hours of operation, noise emanating from the premises, vibrations, lighting and litter. And the protection of children from harm relates to protecting children from the activities carried out on the premises while they are there. The application for a club premises certificate was received on the 4th of August 2021 from Mr Peter Nitch on behalf of Riding Mill Cricket Club for the premises Riding Mill Cricket Club, trading as Riding Mill Sports Club, Riding Mill. The applicant has applied for the licensable activities on the premises for the supply of alcohol and regulated entertainment indoors, Monday to Thursday, 12 noon till 11 p.m, Friday, 12 noon till 11:30 p.m, Saturday 11 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. and Sunday 11 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. A copy of this application is attached within the report as Appendix A. The proposed conditions from the applicant to form part of the operating schedule can be found on page 13 of the Riding Mill Sports Club Constitution and not on page 4 as the report did first initially suggest an error. As mentioned previously, 4 representations have been received from interested parties on the ground of public nuisance, public safety, protection of children from harm and the prevention of crime and disorder. These objections can be found at Appendix B, with further submissions which were received on the 15th of September by way of proposed conditions from the objectors attached as Appendix C. Finally, following the decision of the Licensing Subcommittee today, if the applicant or any interested party who may have made a representation is aggrieved by the decision, they may appeal to the Magistrates' Court within the period of 21 days, and that begins on the day they receive formal written notification of the determination. Thank you, Chair. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from members or Neil? Any questions from applicant or objectors on anything that Heather said? Okay. First of all, this is a unique application. We've never done this before. And unfortunately, I really apologise to everybody that your objection allegedly didn't come in on time, but it was a case of it came in one day and there was nobody actually, because you'll see it's skeleton staff in here. And it wasn't open until the following day and it was deemed to be out of time. So just to make things fair, we're having another hearing. I'm hoping it won't be a total hearing because we had a lot of information from yourself, not yourself, but yourselves last time. So I'm hoping we can, cut it short because we did hear a lot with the same panel. So hopefully we can deal with it in a formal manner. Right, Peter, would you like to put your application forward, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm here on behalf of Riding Mill Sports Club. We originally established as a cricket club, which came close to going out of business probably about 4 or 5 years ago when we had a bad summer, and we need to speak bluntly, we nearly went bust. And it was myself and 2 other lads put my hand in my pocket and kept it going. Subsequently, since then, we became in trade as Riding Mill Sports Club, with a more business-led committee. Hence, certainly all the objectors will see what has been happening to the club over the last year and a bit, where we introduced electric, a great expense, but we raised the funds, thankfully, from the Northumberland County Council through the 106. That money was put towards putting electric in 3 years. It's nearly 4 years ago now, apologies. We then went on a fundraising activity trying to obtain more funds from various people, ECB, FA. We got caught with the COVID that obviously stopped all funding, knocked us sideways. but we've been successful in raising enough money with the help of local councillor, parish council, Osbit, from donations, into securing enough money to actually go ahead and modernise the wood hut that we had. So we've extended, put in showers, extending the changing area, put in a kitchen, put in female stroke child separate changing to meet various child regulations that the ECB and FA put on us. We've grown. We've now, ironically, since the last hearing, had quite over 100 plus parents now in the village that have come forward and joined as social members to support us with the aim of attempting us to keep the club viable and going ahead. There has been a lot of unlicensed, unregulated members has been bringing drink into the club, away teams bringing drink, and we've been unable to control it. So hence we've decided, after speaking to the parish council, that we should go ahead and apply for a licence to try to regulate and stamp it out. So ironically, we're trying to control some of the concerns that has been raised from the objectors. The licensing hours are extremely broad, which is, to be honest, what I was advised to apply for. In reality, we will never be anything like the local pub where we open Monday to Friday. It'll be primarily on match day or special events, which with that we've just been approached from the village trust and the parish council to recommence village day that we used to hold on an annual basis on the cricket field. So they've just come to try to arrange dates for next year with hopefully COVID subsiding. So we're going ahead with that. The club premise and ground is owned by the parish council. It's a community property. We hope to leave a lasting legacy to the community by bringing more facilities and bringing more clubs into Riding Mill Sports Club. But the aim primarily of having the licence is obviously to control it, but also try to bring in some revenue, because we've got to pay the electric costs, pay the heating costs, etc. So we need to sustain viability as a business, which we're attempting to convert from all trustees, and we're looking at, with the parish, we're looking at the feasibility of whether we become a community sports club, and we're in the process of viewing what's the best way to continue with the growth of the club. We'll never, well, I can certainly assure the objectors that the aim is not to become a competitor of the local pub. If we were successful and looked at the opening hours, it's only going to be where a committee member is available to actually manage the bar, because we're not in a position to appoint a full-time bar manager, because effectively we won't be having any at this stage and for the foreseeable future, unless we can extend the premises again, of actually installing the bar. And it's basically going to be a fridge, possibly 2 fridges, where we'll have cans and bottles. So certainly for the time being, and I would suggest for the foreseeable years, there'll be no draft beer. So it's purely going to be opened, although the hours are flexible. It'll be purely opened when there's actual game taking place, whether that be cricket. There's some doubt currently whether or not it'll open for the Sunday football games, because our committee member, who's the football manager, doesn't want to take responsibility for the bar. So I suspect it'll purely be cricket games, but again, we need a variation of licence, because we never know what the fixtures are going ahead for any of the sports. we're now engaging more with the community from the point of view that is a lady being put forward from the parish who is now joined with the aim of looking at whether it's feasible to get a girls' football team or a ladies' football team. So she's in active talks with the FA of how we go about looking at that, because we have to sustain sport to enable to keep the club going, basically, and hence we've applied for a licence to aid that. So that's it, really. And I'm more than happy to try to answer any of the objections if asked.
Great, thank you, Peter. One or two questions. You said beforehand, I know it seems like we're going over old ground, you said beforehand you couldn't control any alcohol coming onto the field via locals or away teams. What makes you think that a licence you'll be able to control anything coming onto the field?
Well, we'll certainly be able to control the actual teams playing, because we'll be sending out instructions to all of the teams before they come to the ground. We're asking it's whether it'll be us or the parish. There'll be notices put on the various gates of entry to the field that alcohol is not allowed into the field. So to introduce control in it, to ensure that children don't get at it, we're adopting the Challenge 25 policy. So if we think that anybody's under the age of 25, we'll be asking for ID. In various bits, it's sort of the gentleman that's advising with what we need to do to ensure that there's no breach of that.
So just for the benefit of everybody, the premises is actually the sports facility, not the field. It's only
not the field.
That's the only place.
We purely have asked for the premises at the moment because we primarily, well, two reasons. One, we want to be sure that we can actually manage and control it ourselves. I'll be quite open with that. Although we have one playing member and one social member that are both licensees and are experienced in running pubs, I don't think they'll it's impossible for them to be there on every day when it's open. So we want to learn to walk before we fly. So hence we only ask for a premise license rather than consumption of alcohol externally on the ground, because we want to stamp that out if people go around the pitch with it.
I think I'm correct, but you'd need a personal licence holder as well, though, surely?
I don't believe so for a club licence.
You've just said there about a premises licence, but just to confirm what you're applying.
The club licence. Yes, sorry, it was because it was with your question saying it was on the premise. Do apologise.
No problem, just to get things clarified. One final one to jog my memory. You've got the what could you call it? The meeting room in the middle.
Yes.
And you've got changing facilities either side.
Yes.
Are they connected directly from the meeting room?
They're currently not, but they will be, because we're going to have to connect them because of the planning permission that we sought. We haven't finished building in the veranda, so we've either got to finish that or put connecting doors through.
Right. But even with a veranda on, I stand to be corrected, but if a veranda was put
sorry,
on...
so it'll be closed, so it'll be actually part of the premise then. It won't be open, you'll have a door on it.
But it will be extra to what the premises is now at the moment. Planning will dictate whether or not you get it.
We've already got planning permission for that, because it was part of the original planning. What we built as a clubhouse, we reduced it in size because we couldn't afford to fully build to what we've got planning permission with. So right. we'll cut back on the changing rooms, and we'll cut back on the front bit as well. But we still have the plan permission for, I think it's for the next two years to complete that.
Yeah, you will do. Well, if you've had it for a year,
yeah,
2 years.
Yeah, it's a year, because we had to renew it because we had it 3 years
just to
previous.
Dictate where the actual premises is, though, because your premises is your building, and if you've got a veranda, porch, whatever it is on the front.
Well, what we effectively plan on doing is taking out the current double doors and moving them forward 3 foot.
So you would be expanding what the premises is now? Slightly?
Yes, but on the diagram, it's not noticeable because that's the original planning permission diagram.
Right.
So we're slightly smaller in aspect. if that makes sense.
Sort of.
It's not the width of the table. The plan permission was the door was there, and we've put the door there at the moment. Because what we've got plan permission to do was to move the wall forward.
So as Councillor Hardy says, the footprint will be the same size.
Correct.
When it's finished.
The same, exactly the same.
Thank you, Colin.
Sorry, I'm not
No, it's
very
okay.
au fait
I'm the same.
with technicalities.
Any other members from question? Any other questions from members? Yeah, Trevor?
I am. Well, obviously, you know, we went through an awful lot last time, and it's still fresh in our minds. A couple of things that's come up though that I don't recall being asked last time. You mentioned that you have the land of the parish council.
So, yes.
You get the land of the parish council.
Yes.
The cricket pitch and that. A couple of things. So, I'm to presume that you pay a peppercorn rent for that.
Correct.
Yeah. Because you said that you had a problem 4 or 5 years ago and that you nearly went bust. So you've got the land, you're paying a peppercorn rent. So what were the costs that nearly forced you to throw it in? I mean, obviously you've got to do your cuts. I understand that.
Correct.
I played cricket for many years, and
primarily, if I hate to say it, it was the weather, because at that period in time we were paying a contractor to cut the pitch, say on a Thursday for the Saturday game.
And do the county council not give you so many cuts a year?
No, the county council don't do anything on our ground. Because the land belongs to the parish council, that's Correct.
why. Because most pitches are given one cut and you pay for extra yourself.
The parish would have to pay for the cuts.
Yeah.
So I presume they'll pass it on to the club.
Yeah. So
subsequently, what we managed to do since then was obviously we raised money over time.
so you've come back basically, and you're making money now because you've actually extended the property and you built new premises and things.
Yes,
like that.
and we managed to attract the obvious one was the football team. We
Yeah.
managed to attract. We managed to attract more players for the cricket teams because we used to only run a friendly team then. We now run a friendly team, 2 weekend league teams,
I'm aware.
1 midweek league team and 1 midweek friendly team now. So we've grown in bodies in subscriptions basically.
Yeah. Now you mentioned a few times this time, which I don't recall being mentioned last time. Correct me if I'm wrong. About intentions in the future. So it sounds to me like you are intending to move towards, say, something like they had at Stocksfield when they had the little hut.
Yes.
And they put a bar in there, and then they extended it, and now it's a focal point of the village.
Our 10-year plan is to continue to grow the club. If I'm honest, the parish has chased me personally now for probably 3 months for a business plan, how we're going to do that, and I hope to be sitting down with a couple of people that can advise us on that, because it is extending the clubhouse again, other than the work we can do ourselves, because we're doing quite a lot of the work ourselves. Is an extreme long way off.
Yeah, but at the moment, you're planning for a license based on that you're selling cans and that in the fridge. And I'll just check this with the licensing officer. I mean, once you've got a license, of course, they could put a bar in, and then they wouldn't have to come back for amendment to a licensing.
Obviously, the sale of alcohol.
Just the sale of alcohol, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. So basically, what we need to consider is future growth, would we say? Or is that not pertaining to this application? Expansion, further expansion.
Are you talking about the bar area?
I'm talking about the club is applying for a licence, and some of the things that they're saying is that it's going to be run by committee members, but there's clearly a desire to expand further, which could mean draft beer, could mean paid staff. Okay, and that's all allowable.
If that's what they're applying for, that's what we can do in the future.
I'm just getting my head around that, making sure I haven't misunderstood anything.
And to obviously, as a club, it's to the supply to members and affiliated guests.
And what's that?
A
members and affiliated guests.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's pretty standard in most clubs. Okay, that'll do for now, thanks.
Thank you. Colin, any questions?
No, good.
Neil? Okay. Do you want to go ladies first? Bear in mind, it's questions on the report that not the report, on the objection letter that was sent in. It's nothing new that's to be added in. It's got to be what you actually came in on the report. The objection letter.
Just what we're objecting to, just
Uh-huh.
putting forward what we're objecting to, yeah?
Yeah. Page 50, I don't know if you've got it, page 55 on the report?
I haven't got the full report with me.
Hope it hasn't got more than what's here, mind. Because you're adding something new in.
I've got our objections, because I was
As-
told that's all we
as
could
we have.
discuss. Yeah,
Presumably. Right.
yeah,
Yeah, great.
yeah. Basically, Osbit or...
It's questions. Have you any questions from the applicant? Then you can give your side
Yeah,
of things.
yeah. So, in relation to the opening hours or the suggested timing of the licence period, you don't have any specific car parking space and have been using Osbit's car park,
Yes,
and that is not in any formal agreement. Do you have any plans to accommodate your visitors and team members in your own car park?
car parking I don't see affecting the licence, but I'm happy to answer that. I was under the impression that we had an agreement with yourselves that we could currently use the car park. Traditionally, before that, we park on the field, which is, if the agreement is ever withdrawn from yourselves of parking in the car park, we're more than happy to go back parking on the field. That's what we've done since 1985.
We don't have any official agreement. I think we have
No, it was an agreement.
whilst our
between-
car park was not being used and we were extending the building,
Yes.
that you were able to use the car park, but we don't have anything
The
official.
actual agreement, I don't know, because it was made with the parish and yourselves. So I've got to be perfectly honest, I have not seen that in writing. But car parking from an issue, I don't see it as an issue because...
Presumably it was by word of mouth anyway, I would
Yes,
imagine.
it was.
By word of mouth.
No, well, we do have an agreement with the parish council which is now expired, but that was in relation to Osbit planning on installing a barrier at the entrance to Broomhoff, and the easement that the parish council have over the land to the access to the cricket club. So
Right.
we'd agreed that they could use our car park at a time agreed, as long as they let us know the dates and times that they needed access. We would give them codes to the barriers. However, Osbit never went ahead and installed that barrier, so all of the parish council and the cricketers and footballers have always had access, free access, even though it is private property.
Yeah. I can understand where you're coming from, but really it isn't a licensing objective. You know, there's nothing in the objectives that say there's got to be adequate parking or anything like that.
Okay. So my
but-
question was, how do they propose to accommodate visitors if they're selling alcohol and people are driving into the premises?
From what I gather from the reply, as they did before, parking on the field.
Okay.
I know where the field is, but I'm not a cricketer. I haven't played on it, but Councillor Sesford has, and he knows the field. It's, you know, if you think there's plenty adequate parking, presumably. It's not a licensing
When I've
objective.
played there, we always parked in the field at the top. And, you know, we never parked, well, I never did anyway, in the old pub's car park, which it was. So I see no reason why the cars can't park there. I mean, to be fair though, that's, if you don't want to park on your land, you've got the right not to let them park on your land. We can't make a decision on that.
Chair, can I just interrupt? This is meant to be questions to the applicant, and it seems like the questions are getting put to... I know we're all trying to assist, but you know, I don't want to get into a position where the panel are answering questions that are being put to the to the
Well, I think the
applicant.
issue is that it's not really a licensing
issue. It's not
question.
That's true, Chair. It's not. The only way it could be, I mean, first of all, it has to relate to the licensing objectives. So if there's going to be, increased demand for car parking spaces because of this license, because there is an application for an alcohol license, then what impact does that have on the licensing objectives? Like nuisance, I think, is the one licensing objective that I think is really an issue here. So I don't know, I can't make those representations, but that would be the only way in which it could affect the licensing objectives if nuisance was being produced in respect of car parking.
So basically, if a licence was granted, and I'm saying if it was granted, and there were parking issues and causing problems, the police or somebody else could intervene and say, because they have a licence, this is the problem, or these are the potential problems.
Well, Chair, I don't want to overcomplicate matters. I think for the purposes of today, there's got to be, evidence that there would be, or there's a likelihood of public nuisance being caused by the grant of this licence in respect of car parking. I mean, obviously there are other controls about parking on roads, highway authority, can be police or what have you. But there has to be representations and evidence on that basis for you to consider it. So, I suppose in short, whilst it's unlikely that would be affect the licensing objectives, it's not impossible. But those representations have to come from the objectives, and evidence has to be produced, and you need to consider them. I think that's...
Okay, thanks. Amanda, have you any other questions?
Yeah, the extent of the hours requested, we feel, is notably excessive for the amount of time that you have cricket days or entertainment days or whatever, your football teams and things like that. Can I ask why you've applied for such a lengthy period of time for the licence to
Sorry, I
serve
didn't mean to cut you off, Amanda.
Okay.
Basically, because we don't know what days games are going to be on. We don't know the fixtures for next season. We don't know the fixtures going forward at the moment. Fixtures are rearranged. So if we put in, say, we only want fixtures on a Saturday and Sunday and a Monday and Tuesday, and then our games are played on a Wednesday and Thursday, we wouldn't be able to sell alcohol. So that's why it's broad-based. It is nowhere near going to be a pub. It's nothing like so that. In reality, I know you raised your concern about when you were working during Monday to Friday. To clarify that, for a cricket game, the game doesn't start at 6 o'clock, so it's after your operating hours, give or take one or two of you guys working overtime or something behind. So it certainly wouldn't open before a game. Because simply everyone will be getting ready for the game, and the committee members, i.e. if I was playing, if I'm fortunate enough to play next year, it would be after the game. So it wouldn't be any impact to you that way from the point of view of it's during your working hours. At weekends, I don't believe you work weekends. I know occasionally I see on a Saturday some of your cars there. But again, it's purely during match day. And the only reason of the widespread span of the hours is that we can't tell from 1 week. Well, that's not strictly true, but we can't guarantee from 1 week to the next when the game's going to be, because if bad weather intervenes or it's rearranged. And that's the only reason it's such a wide span licence.
Okay. As you just mentioned, in your future plans, you plan to grow the club. With the span of times that you have the licensing period, do you expect to have more activity in the way of licensing act, of selling of alcohol on the property with your future plans?
In the short term, no. It's a simple answer.
You can't guarantee that.
It's going to be whoever's a non-designated driver from the away team, if they stop, because some teams I've seen it myself at some clubs, some don't, some rush off depending on the result. Just to cover that and the worry about the increase in traffic, there'll be no more increase in traffic parking than there is currently. And from the point of view of increasing from future plans of the club, we did attempt to get, our dream was to move the clubhouse to the top of the field, because it's a green belt area, that wasn't allowed. We've only got a very short distance if we want to go back for additional plan permission where we can extend to. So it's in the near future, and I say the near future, probably the next 10 years, because it's taken 20 years to get where we are now. I don't envisage other than making nicer the outside and possibly putting decking down, because I don't believe we need plan permission for decking. But we're going to check beforehand, with sort of silly little things were mentioned about how we nearly went broke. We ended up buying our own cutting machine. That's been in Hexham for the last 17 weeks of the season because it's a £2,500 repair bill, and we haven't raised the money to pay for it yet. So it's a long, long way off. It'll be well past my sell-by date, to be honest. So, no, is a simple answer.
Okay.
Sorry for talking too long, Amanda.
Can I ask a question of the licensing officer? Is a club premises licence, if it's granted, does that only allow the sale of alcohol and consumption of alcohol inside the pavilion building or actually anywhere?
Indoors. But
Okay.
consumption isn't a licensable activity. So the supply of alcohol can take place from within the building.
And then it can be consumed.
About an outside area, it would be up to the management and the committee to determine whether they would let consumption happen outside.
Okay. So can I just ask, Colin, how you will control people who are visiting and enjoying your facilities, which is what you're trying to do, is to encourage the local community to enjoy those facilities as well as establish your football teams. And I totally agree with that. But during your events, how would you stop people migrating across the car park, the driveway onto our very inviting picnic area? And not littering and creating that nuisance.
Well, one of the things that I wrote is probably digressing slightly. We've been in discussions with the parish about repairing the fence, whose responsibility that is, whether it was the builders or whether it's ours. We've agreed to fund, which it would have been done if I hadn't run out of money. The fence ourselves as a cricket club, not the parish. That's the part next to the building. The part further down, the builders accepted responsibility, but I believe we're still waiting for that to be repaired. The idea is that they'll be told quite bluntly that they could, I'm not aware that they've ever, in all the times I've played and came down to watch, I'm not aware that they've ever digressed onto your property and used your park benches. And if you note, we have got seating areas for them to sit outside, and we bought that primarily to ensure that they didn't digress out of the ground, to be honest, because I've always been aware of the issues, Amanda, with litter, and we do our best to pick it up. And as far as I'm aware, we do clear anything up. And I know the football team manager goes round personally to do it. And I appreciate that there's a lot of the mess at the moment is rightly or wrongly from the builder, from a certain degree of whoever dumping in the skip that was there, what you would call fly tipping. So it's unfortunately it's been out of our control, and I can only apologise for that. But the fence will be rectified, the gate will be rectified, and we will ensure that it hadn't happened in the past and it won't happen in the future.
Okay, so on that note then, prior to the construction of the extension to the pavilion, on a number of occasions, Osbert employees, myself included, and I've actually paid a gardener to go around and clean up bottles, cans, sports drinks from our side of the fence, which is where the footballers park, the cricketers park on a number of occasions. How can we guarantee that that will be maintained and not Osbit's responsibility to maintain that?
But once the
left
fence
behind.
is established, it's just stop them going through there. From the aspect of parking, I wasn't aware that the agreement had ended, if I'm brutally honest, with the parish. I know the parish are in talks with you at the moment over a number of things. If the parking back on the field, I would hope that that would actually add to it ceasing. Because certainly the times I've parked on the field, if I'm honest, we've never had great issue with litter. I think the majority of the litter that currently happened was because of the extended building works.
No, I sent photographs into the parish council, but
Well,
again, my question was,
agree.
how will you guarantee?
Well, all I can
litter
give is
will
a
be
personal
managed.
guarantee from Riding Mill Sports Club that we will take responsibility for cleaning that up if it occurs. I've got to admit, I'm not aware of being approached personally to receive any complaints from yourselves, but that might be because you've gone direct to the parish. I don't know.
To be
I
honest
think
with you,
we've-
it's been managed
I think
up to
that's
now.
digressing.
And again, it's not, my question was, how will it be managed in accordance with the licence being issued, and if there's
Well,
bottles
we'll
and
have
cans being
signs.
sold?
We'll the same as what we're going to do with having signs on the gates. We will put the relative signs up asking them not to trespass. We will fund that because it's our responsibility, and I will give you our assurance. I know, I believe we've got quite a good relationship, Amanda, and so it's.
Well, we don't know if there's going to be a licence yet or not, but if there is a licence granted, I would advise you work together, and if there is a problem...
I was going to say, by all means, feel free to pick the phone up to me direct.
Through the parish council?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, ring me direct, and we'll take issues with the players in the teams and make note that
it would be better
shouldn't
to go,
occur.
if this happens, it would be better to go direct, because it may get lost in the labyrinth of the parish council and never get to them. So, you know, just trying to be advisable if the licence is granted. Ivan, have you any questions?
Just a couple. So I'm a former cricketer, so I know how it all works, and
If you still want to play, we're more than welcome.
all those days are long gone.
Members,
It's,
thank you.
No, thanks.
I hope you weren't looking at me then, mind.
So you've applied for a very long time between 12 and 11 on the weekdays, and you're quite right, midweek games don't start till 6 o'clock, so why aren't we applying for a licence from 5 o'clock till 11? Because you're talking about you wanting to grow the club and whatever, and if you get this licence, you will have the ability to sell alcohol between 12 and 11. And that would mean that there would then be a potential 40 hours a week.
Okay.
12 till 5 every day, where the building, our building, is literally 10 yards away from where you're serving alcohol.
Again, I was advised, whether correctly or incorrectly, to put in a blanket application for for opening hours. If it assists you in supporting us in this, then those others need slightly modifying. I'm more than happy to agree that if the panel thinks it's worthwhile, because realistically it would be just specific functions Monday to Friday, where say if it was a village day and it was during midweek, they would want the license. If we're successful, we would want the bar open at 12 o'clock or the fridge open at 12 o'clock, however you want to put it. But that's going to be rare activity. If it assists the application of reducing the opening times to say, I I was going to say, I used to get down about 4 to do the ground, so I'd appreciate it at 4 o'clock rather than 5 Monday to Friday. But I'm more than happy to accommodate that, because in reality, we're not going to operate as a pub, so we're not going to be there. So I'm more than happy if you're, you know, if that would help you support this. I'm more than happy doing that.
There's a letter in the back from Colin Lisco, and I think Martin Baird as well, suggesting, this is only a suggestion, mind, an hour before the start of a cricket match and 2 hours after the end of a cricket match.
Chair,
Sorry?
my thoughts on that, I mean, they're not definite hours of the day. That's the trouble. I'm not sure that we could actually do that.
Before a match, after a match, the match will start at 2 o'clock, will start at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've already
That's
heard
the
that we don't
problem
know
with
when the matches will start.
Well, that's not strictly true. Midweek games, Monday to Friday, you start at 6 o'clock.
Okay, but my point is that for the purpose of the license, we would have to say a definite time rather than
So you could
an
say,
hour before
so you could
or
say,
after.
well, you could stay 5 o'clock.
Well, if it's workable, Chair. I mean, obviously, we've just heard that the applicant is willing to consider a change in times, but at the moment, the application before you is for the hours that is in the application. So if that's going to change, I think we probably would need a break for 5 or 10 minutes to actually, if the applicant wants to enter into any discussions. Yes, Chair. That's correct, Chair. Yes, but it's not a matter for us, of course. It's, you know, you have to determine what's before you. But
And also, if that was done and if there was something amicable, there's still the possibility, if there was a need for something larger, they've got the potential of 1210s.
yes, just to explain, because I was talking about 10s might not mean a lot to a lot of other people.
Sorry
These
about
are
that.
temporary event notices. So anything outside of the licence, you can apply for one-off specific events. Again, Chair, you know, that's not before us today. But that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I think we should ask the applicant whether he requires 10 minutes to explore the possibility of revising his application. But it is a matter for the applicant, Chair.
Yeah.
We're not here to
Well, if
pressure you in any way.
Okay.
You know, the application is what's before committee.
Am I allowed to ask a question of?
Well, you could after their presentation, basically. But if you'd like to adjourn, we can adjourn, and yourself, the solicitor, and the licence manager.
All I was going to say was, in reality, it's not going to be open the hours I've asked. I would hope you'd be able to take us on trust with that, because we have had a good relationship, or I think we have anyway, over the last few years, and correct us if I'm wrong. And if it becomes an issue, I believe you can complain about it, or...
Yeah, but I think the point is, if once you're granted the licence, you've got that ability to do so. Now, yes, we've got a great relationship with you, whatever, but say you get booted off.
Thank you.
I mean, you know,
fair
it does happen, and we get somebody who's a bit more aggressive about.
Right,
We then can't go back. I would say that really the licence shouldn't be starting at 5 o'clock on a Monday to Friday, except where you've got bank holidays, where you might have a Saturday game that's played on a bank holiday Monday, because I know that does happen. But and also,
part of the reason we put those particular hours in we consulted with both Corbridge and Stocksfield cricket clubs, and we went along the lines of what they've actually been given. Well, actually our closing times are slightly earlier than both Corbridge and...
Quite often we get applications in, have panel meetings, panel applications for licences, and they have the broadest opening and closing times there are, and sometimes we don't give them licences, sometimes we do, and if we do, we'll restrict them down to what we feel is acceptable for the community. It won't be for everybody, but for the majority of the community. That's the idea of it.
Yeah.
But if
But I accept that, but between 12 and 5 o'clock, there's the ability to sell alcohol within 20 yards of our building.
I would probably say I would have to stick to the hours currently, because otherwise I'm going to have to go back and convene a committee meeting, because I don't believe I would have the authority to change it. So I'm going to have to. I'm sorry, I'll have to stick to that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Otherwise I will get booted off.
Well, put it this way, at the end of the day, both parties, applicant and objectors, have the right to appeal to whatever decision we come up with.
Chair, and just on that point, just to, I don't presume that everyone in the room knows everything about licensing. There is power to review as well. So if there are problems with public nuisance in the future, they can get reported through and the licence can be reviewed. But really, I was just going to say, just in terms of the hours, the important issue is the effect on the licensing objective. So if we take protection from public nuisance, really the principle is that regardless of the hours, it's the effect, it's the realistic prospect of public nuisance occurring. So there's going to be some impact from the sale of alcohol, whichever premises we are licensing, if that's what happens. But just because there is a license doesn't necessarily mean there's an unacceptable impact. Sometimes there will be, sometimes there won't. But that is the issue for the particular committee. So I think what I'm trying to say is that regardless of the hours, if there is a public nuisance, there's a public nuisance regardless of what hour in the day it is, whether it's after 6 o'clock, before 6 o'clock. And the question is whether that is acceptable. And the panel can only make their decision on a realistic prospect of that happening. So if there's any evidence that it could happen in the future, I know it's difficult when something hasn't actually been granted yet, but it can't be a perceived sort of problem. There's got to be something concrete to suggest to the subcommittee that actually will be a problem. And that applies whether it's 11 o'clock in the morning, noon, 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. Okay, I hope I've explained that. Okay, Chair. Right, okay.
I think so. Thank you very much, Neil. Is that all, Ivan?
Yeah.
I'm conscious it's Martin, isn't it? I'm conscious you were here before. And not wanting this to prolong too long, but I'm going to give you the right anyway. Is there anything that Peter's mentioned in his presentation today that triggers a different question from yourself? He says thank you. I can read his mind.
I had it switched off, thank you.
So just 2 or 3 things really, Chair. Will members, guests and visitors still be allowed to bring their own drink should you be successful in your application?
We'll be deterring that for the obvious reason that we would rather sell it to them. And plus we want to control it because I'm conscious that it hasn't been controlled. So we will be putting notifications up and advising the clubs before that they're not allowed to bring alcohol into the field.
Right. Now, I was also going to ask, are you aware of the sports club rules as laid down by the Parish Council in 2018?
We have a constitution that's been agreed with the parish, which has superseded that.
Right, okay. So the no music after 8 and
that's all been superseded.
No alcohol on the grounds, that's been torn up.
That's been
okay,
removed
fair
and
enough.
taken out.
I was also, are you aware, I've been up there since 98, and it used to attract an awful lot of crime, the cricket club, just smashing windows. There was a bad element in Riding Mill, believe it or not, for a while. And
yeah, I actually know who the father was of the children, and that's
right. So would you consider taking on extra security because you'll have
haven't
money?
named them, don't worry.
You'll have money in stock on the premises.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I missed.
Would you be looking to beef up the security because you'll be having money in stock on the premises now, which you probably didn't have before?
We're hoping not to keep cash. Mm-hmm. We intend going cardless, which I think is what is the age of invention now. that's another sign, yet again, that we'll be putting on the door that there's no cash held on the premise.
And stock?
Stock, we have 2 fridges. We don't have the capacity to store anything anywhere because we have problems storing essential supplies for the machinery.
So there will be booze left overnight in the
There'll be
premises?
there'll be two fridge loads, but if anybody wants to take that,
Okay.
that's about it, really.
And can I ask how long a game of cricket can go on for? I'm a 45-minute man, you know, 2 hours.
My God. Help? The game, it depends on how successful we are. Depends which division we're in. So currently it's 40 overs per team is a maximum. That can go to 45, it can go to 50, it can go to 60 if we ever, in my wildest dreams, got the Premiership. So it depends on the game, to be honest. So midweek games are 20 overs. Weekend games vary between 40 to 60, depending on the league that you're playing in.
Right.
Football
no definite answer then? There's no
40
definitive
overs
answer.
at the moment. So you talk about 80 overs, and you're talking about the time that, well, if we state the time that the league tells us we have to finish for, it is 9:15 in the evening, if that's what you're asking. So that's the time that the game will end.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time people got showered and changed, a couple of cans after that, non-drivers. But it does depend on the league and the games.
Right. And you mentioned about you've suddenly got 100 extra members, which is a sort of 1,000% increase.
If
on
I'm
our last
honest,
chat.
we had that previous and I wasn't aware of it.
All right, okay.
So I apologise for misleading you before.
But they're mainly parents.
They are
with
parents who live
children.
in the village.
Right, okay.
Who
And they're going to supervise their children
they
without
support,
the assistance
yeah,
of
well,
alcohol?
they supervise their children, yes.
Okay. That'll do me for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, it's the objector's turn. I presume you won't have anything to say as objection as you did last time.
Is it recorded from the last meeting? I don't have to go through
Well, we
it. Right,
took,
it's all taken on
notes
board.
and et cetera, yes. So we had a long meeting. Not as long as some, mind, but we had a long meeting. Would the 2 other objectors like to put your case forward? This isn't question, this is your case telling us why, as a licensing reason, you feel the licence shouldn't be granted.
In summary, or do you want us to go in?
summarise after that.
Okay.
Without going through it all again, you may summarise at the finish, yes.
Okay, so we are an offshore engineering business employing 120 people within the building of Broomhoff House, although the pandemic has had its effect on us and there isn't that many people coming and going. But one of the objectives is to encourage more and more of our employees to come back and enjoy the office space, of which we've just added a 300 square foot extension to the back of to accommodate everybody. One of our objections is the car parking space being used up, particularly on match days when our first priority is our employees and making sure that they are catered for. We do also cater for our employees inside the building, which then spreads out onto our patio area, and many of our employees enjoy the lunch, the tea breaks in a nice patio environment outside. So the objection really is, where would the car parking area be used for the cricketers, the visitors, etc., etc. We feel that the hours of the requested licence seems excessive in relation to when they're suggesting that the games will be played. But again, that's just been explained to us, that the effect that will have. We have concerns of, can I call it bad behaviour, antisocial behaviour, with the consumption of alcohol around our premises and possible litter dropping and just general mess that we are left to clean up, which we have had in the past. We have concerns of if there is drinking on the premises and people are driving, the drink driving element around that, and if people are carrying children in the car from the premises to home after they've been drinking. We're concerned of people using our picnic area as a drinking area, and it's not something that we encourage in the house. We do have an agreement for access to the land past the easement of access, which is now expired. So there is that is, but we are working with the parish council to try and resolve some of these issues. And we're not saying immediately, we don't want them to have a licence. Let's enjoy the cricket club. Let's all enjoy it together. Let it boost the activities within the parish council area. The ladies football team, the young cricketers team, that have all been quite successful in the club, I think is a great idea. It's just the impact that it may have on Osbit's business. It just does seem really reliant on the access to our land, and that's one of the hours rather disproportionate to the activities of the cricket club.
Okay, thank you. Have you, Ivan, anything to add to that?
Not especially, no. Just...
Could I, before I ask questions from everyone else, could I go to the parking thing for one thing, which is a major thing, really, I suppose. So I suggested before, if there is a licence granted, you could negotiate between the cricket club and yourselves whether you're going to allow them on, whether you're going to give them a permit for a certain length of time, a probational permit, or yearly, 2 yearly, 5 yearly, and sort of work together on that one, if things go ahead. Antisocial behaviour, have you any evidence that it's the cricketers that are causing the antisocial behaviour?
We don't have specific evidence, i.e. we've not caught anybody in the act, if you like, but like I say, I have had to employ gardeners and cleaning staff to remove litter, and I have photographic evidence of it being geared towards the sports club, i.e. sports drinks and just empty bottles and high protein wrappers and things like that. So me and my investigator.
Crusoe.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
If you put one and one together and getting 5. But...
Sorry, I mean, this lot are all tucked up in bed by 6 o'clock. It's me with all my households that see the antisocial behaviour, etc. So, with respect, of course, you work so hard, you have to have an early night. But in lockdown, many instances of excessive noise. Absolutely.
But would that be due to the cricketers? I'm not sticking up for the cricketers' mind at all. I'm just asking the question.
It was due to whoever was in the club at the time. Whether I don't think they were footballers. Footballers seem to be a Sunday morning. But that's really antisocial behaviour with them. They can't play without swearing every 3 seconds. And that's in the club rules. You're not allowed to swear. I have to hide my grandchildren in a soundproof room when they're playing. But the antisocial behaviour is at night. It's not during the day when they're playing.
Has it ever been reported to the police? Any antisocial behaviour at whatever time by anybody?
I've seen the police go around a couple of times, but they weren't reported by me. I think they were just checking to see during lockdown what was going on in the premises.
Right.
Peter, you'll know that one. When the police came round?
Sorry, I was switched off.
So,
We've had no reports of incidents officially. You are right. 2 officers came one day to inspect because it said, not yourself, a neighbour rang to say that there was drinking going on the premise. They walked round and confirmed that there wasn't in the left.
Right, another one you had was drink driving. Well, you could claim that about any licensed premises. There is the potential of drink driving from it. So I'm not sticking up for them at all. I'm just putting a licensing hat on to try and say that it's out of our remit, basically, that people may come and drink and drive, they may not, and it's up to, well, the police basically after that. If they're caught, they're caught.
Would it also mean, sorry, would it also mean if they didn't want to drink and drive, that cars would be left on our property overnight?
Well, that goes back to the first one, parking. And if, in my mind, if cars were left on your property and they weren't your cars or your employees' cars, I'd put a sign up saying any cars left overnight would be clamped, something like that. And you know, that would hopefully stop anything like that, because it's your property. You can do what you want on your property, well, within reason, what you like on your property, not commit murder or anything like that.
Chair,
Sorry?
Again, it's not for the licensing committee to resolve all of these problems. It's a matter.
I'm just trying to assist in...
I appreciate that, Chair, but I mean, really, we need to concentrate on the licensing objectives, and you've been exploring what the real issues are in terms of the licensing objectives, and in doing so, I think we can spill over into explaining what isn't relevant. But
Yeah,
then, you know, matters, you know, it relating around car park and resolving those issues are really issues that you need to address directly with the applicants. I think they're outside of the scope of the licensing system.
I'll leave that alone since I've been told of. Are there any, are there any questions from the panel? Colin?
Just a comment that Amanda made, that she would like to see the club progress, and looked at the licence per se as something that, if was controlled how she wanted to see it, how it would be interacted. You didn't actually have an objection to it.
You know, we are quite keen to support the cricket club, and if it results in a women's cricket team and a women's football team, all the more better. I think we're just our objections really found around a 12 till 5 potential opening time. The other big thing we've got to consider is, at the moment, there's not meant to be any alcohol at the ground, full stop, and there is some going in, which they're trying to control. Now, by putting a pub in, or sorry, bar facilities, there's definitely going to be an increase on the amount of alcohol drunk in that facility, which is right next to our building, and we've got real concerns that we're going to see a lot more litter, potential damage. I mean, I think unless you actually really know how easy it is to move from the cricket pitch onto the Osbert facility, it's I don't think you quite understand what our objections quite are, and that's what we're very supportive about the club and being proactive. It's just we've got real concerns about the licensing hours and the potential impact and cost it may have to us as a business.
All right, any other questions? None? Have you? None? Neil? Heather? No? Right, it's Peter, it's your turn. Oh, sorry, I turned myself off instead of on.
It's all right, I heard you. Thank you, Chairman. I think we've covered most of it off during the various discussions. So, as I say, I just hope we can continue the relationship and continue to work together, because it's in the interest of the local community. So no, I'm happy with everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, objectives, it's your time to sum up. Summing up is just summing up. It's not everything all over again. Just a quick sum up. You're happy? Thank you very much for that. Sorry?
Can I just have a minute? A summing up minute? Well, okay. I think without doing a site visit, you will fail to see the proximity of the location to chimney pots and the business and the problems with parking. I know you don't like doing site visits. I think you're the only gentleman that knows the club. Sound travels in a valley, and what might not sound noisy with Peter and his lads, by the time it travels down the valley, you can hear absolutely everything. And if it's fueled up with a bit more booze, it could get louder. That's me. I just think you should look at a site visit. That's me done. Thank you.
Well, we have in the past had site visits. Normally it's before we have a panel meeting. But I've looked it on Google. I know the area. I've lived in Whitfield for not all my life, but nearly. I'm still alive. So I know the area very well, but haven't been on the field. I've been on your site for a planning application years ago on Tyndale Council. So I know that particular part where the extension goes down to the north side of your site. So I do know the site. I don't know if Colin is aware of it as much.
Googled it. I have some limited knowledge of it.
So we've seen it. On the noise side, it sounds as if I'm again sticking up for the golf club, cricket club. On the noise side, if they were to get a licence, you've got the fallback of police, environmental health, that sort of thing. And if they had a licence, not the chances are, but there could be a possibility it could be revoked if there are major problems and a continuation of.
Chair,
So that's...
if it helps, you'll be retiring to consider all the representations and what your decision is going to be. Even at that stage, if your discussions lead you to the route of a site visit, you can make that decision before, and then we can reconvene for deliberations after that. That's not to push you in any direction. You can decide whether or not to have a site visit. So that question's been put to you, but that can be a matter for your deliberations.
Well, when we deliberate, we could discuss it then and decide whether or not to.
That's correct, Chair.
Personally.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I think that is it. We will now retire and deliberate and discover what the fate of the cricket club, the licence will be.
Thank you,
Are we moving out or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll